started. Two parts to the story. The first part of the story, I was traveling back and forth from Minnesota, where I lived and grew up, to Pennsylvania, where my sister had moved. When I was in college, I was in Minnesota, and I would travel back to her in the summers and work there. My brother-in-law would get me a job at Kraft out there, and so I was constantly going back and forth. And you always hit Chicago. And so you got to figure out, well, how am I going to deal with Chicago this time? You know, sometimes you go through the loop, and if it's late at night and there's nobody there, that's fine. And sometimes you take the alternate route, all that goes down around. It's a little bit longer, but so anyway, I got there and it was pretty late at night, nobody on the road, and so I went straight through the loop. And it was raining really hard, windshield wipers are going, and my car starts to chug. And I'm going, oh no, I forgot to put on gas because there's no place in the loop, And so I run out of gas, and I had just enough. I put the clutch in and cruised underneath an overpass, and I'm sitting there and wonder, well, now what do I do? Of course, this was back before there were cell phones or anything. And about 5 minutes later, a car pulls up. And the guy gets out and he says, do you have some sort of a problem? And I said, well, yeah, I ran out of gas. And he says, well, you're in luck. It's your lucky day. I'm a manager at a gas station. And I go, whoa, cool. And so I got out and I trusted him. He seemed trustworthy. Of course, it could have been bad. But so he took me to his gas station, and it was a Texaco. And he pulled a gas can off his shelf and filled it up. And then we went back to my car, and we put the gas in the car. And I said, in my Minnesota accent, well, what do you want for all that? And he said, all I want is for you someday to help somebody else if you find somebody in trouble. And so I said, okay, I'll try to remember that. So fast forward, Oak Island, and it was 2 Januaries ago, and it was cold. I mean, it wasn't like Minnesota cold, but it was cold. And so 3 a.m. the doorbell rings, and so I walk to the door. The dog is just barking her head off, and I walk to the door in my sweatpants and my T-shirt, and I peek out the door, and there's like a kid standing there. And so I open the door, and he's kind of swaying back and forth a little bit, and I said, can I help you? At 3 a.m. in the morning, and he says, I'm really sorry to bother you, but my friends ditched me. I was at a party on Oak Island, and I'm not familiar with the town, and I'm not sure where I am exactly. I saw your porch light on, and he said, could I borrow your phone, to give my friends a call? And so I did, and he called them, and of course they didn't answer. They didn't know who was calling, and so they didn't answer. And so I figured the easiest thing, and then it's kind of clicking in as I'm watching this kid in trouble that, oh yeah, I remember what that guy in Chicago told you. And so I said, just I'll take you home. He didn't have any shoes on. He didn't have his coat. He left all that stuff in there in his friend's car. And so I said, do you live far? And he said, it was a few miles. I said, well, just wait a second. And I went and got my stuff and took him home. And then at the end, it was the denouement. He says, I have Venmo. Can I pay you? What can I give you for this? And I said, no. I said, you just help somebody that needs a friend later on. And he agreed to do that. So, and I wrote a song about it. It's like you're always on the lookout for some, some kind of good message to do a song about. And it's kind of a country-sounding song. One of my guitar students, I taught guitar in Minnesota, and he told me, Doug, you can make just about any song sound like a country song. And this is living proof that that is true. Not long ago, I paid it forward. A drunk lost teen came to my door at 3 a.m. one Sunday morning, embarrassed by what he asked for.
shoes. His friends had ditched him, he could not call them. He lost his phone, so I just grabbed my keys and a sweatshirt, no questions asked. I took him home, 'cause there was a time back in Chicago I took the loop. The rain was bad, I should have filled up before the city lights ran out of gas beneath an overpass. But I was rescued by a gas man who took me to his Texaco. I tried to pay, he said, just you remember, help someone who needs a friend somewhere on down the road. I got him safely to his own doorstep. He tried to pay me, I told him, no, 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 my turn to say, just you remember to help someone who needs a friend somewhere on down the road. Don't be surprised to shirk your duty when it comes. If you're ever called to play the Good Samaritan, 'cause there was this guy back in Chicago who took me